afternoon, everyone, and good morning, depending on what part of the world you're coming from, and welcome to the last session of the ALM Octane Live Day. This is Kelly Emo. I was here earlier in the morning and am responsible for product and solutions marketing for our ALM product line, and in particular ALM Octane. And once again, it's my pleasure to participate in the live day. I've been really looking forward to this session. This is one that I promoted this morning. It's a case study from one of our key partners talking about how they became familiar with ALM Octane, started adopting it, and did some wonderful things with it. So it's my pleasure to go ahead and kickstart this session. This is a session with KJR. They're one of our premier partners in a wonderful region, Australia, and I was just there in October, and I had the pleasure of meeting our two speakers today. So I want to do a quick introduction of our two speakers. We have Andrew Hammond, who is our general manager of the KJR Canberra team and has been heavily involved in all things quality and testing for many years. And then he is also joined by Nick Karpetis from the KJR Canberra's team as well, and he is a true ALM Octane evangelist. Really enjoys working with the product and has really spent a lot of time with it. So I think you're going to really enjoy this session. With that, I'm not going to take up any more time for the intro. I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Andrew and Nick.
So that's great. So essentially we started to hear about Octane, probably like most of the people listening earlier this year. So being a premier partner of HP, we started to hear through the partner channels, as well as a bit on LinkedIn and Twitter and the news feeds and that sort of stuff. So Nick and I are very much hands-on guys. I've been on the tools now since Test Director 7.1, I think was the first one that I started to play with. And since then, I've been doing lots of QC admin and using the tool as a practitioner as well. So as soon as I heard that there was a new product coming online that we could start to play with, like lots of Techo people, I jumped on and started playing with the new shiny toys. And so our journey started roughly in March, as you can see on that slide there, when I joined up to the ALM beta program, and hopefully lots of you guys did as well, guys and girls did as well. Through the SaaS platform. And I found that was a really awesome way to get involved and start to have a look at the capability and start to sort of position as to where we saw the tool and how it would be helping our customers. Along that journey, as you can see there, around May, one of the government departments here in Canberra released an RFQ to the open market to procure a software testing management tool. We were fortunate enough to be in a position to respond to that, and having done a whole bunch of investigations into how then the ALM beta product was going to work, as well as using our knowledge of ALM and Agile Manager, we were able to put forward what we thought was a fairly compelling response to the tender to meet the testing needs of the department, because like a lot of places, they're embracing Agile and starting to get into DevOps, as well as having to deal with the traditional waterfall legacy systems. So they needed a very complete platform. So we submitted the tender, which was great, and that was being evaluated. And then we were fortunate enough to have a whole company meeting in the June, which I put in there as the digital mothership. And the reason I've included that is that we were lucky enough to have a fellow by the name of Jonathan Wright come out from the UK. And he was working for Hitachi at the time, but he was also involved heavily in the development of the concepts and how the ALM beta product was going to work. So I spent a lot of time with him talking about the tool and how it would fit and the concepts and all that sort of stuff behind it. So that was a really key point in our learning about how this new platform was going to operate and all of the features that it was going to bring. So then fast forward to July, fortunately we won the RFQ and so began the planning of implementing. And so like all good implementation plans, we had put together a list of requirements for hardware, because the security conditions in Australia are such that government departments really need to have all of their systems on-prem. And so the trouble that we encountered, as most of you I'm sure have encountered, is that the procurement of hardware is never as fast as it is in most of the outside world, essentially. So we had a problem there where we were meant to be installing in late July, but the hardware wasn't going to be delivered until mid-September. So, given it was an on-prem install that we were going to do, I hadn't done one of those, and not many people at all actually around the globe had done any on-prem installs except for the guys in the HP R&D space. So we had to come up with another solution, and essentially what we did was we spun up a replica model of the planned um, hardware on in AWS, and essentially, as you can see there, we used an EC2 instance using Red Hat as the front end, and this mimics everything that's in the required install or the suggested install in the manual that I've put there. So yeah, we used EC2 as the front end, Amazon RDS as the back end, and really the install process was, I have to say, very, very straightforward. I'm not a massive Linux user. I've done a bit, but between the install instructions and the way that the Linux packages are put together, it was really, really quite a simple install and straightforward. So for those of you that are thinking about doing an install of an on-prem one, then I'd say, yeah, definitely have a crack at it, because it's not quite the click next and enter a few values that the ALM install is, for example, but it's not that much more complicated. And so from that point of view, it was really cool. The other benefit, like most people are aware of in the cloud, is that we could do that install multiple times, and I didn't need to procure any big lots of hardware or anything. So I think in total, the whole dev test scenario that we set up cost about $100 in infrastructure, which is really not much in this day and age. The benefit was that we were able to do that multiple times and then start to customize that install and get even more familiar with the tool. So you'll see there in October, I've got a little cup there, because essentially when we went live with the department's install and they first started using it, we were actually the first global deployment of an on-prem customer-based install, which is pretty cool, because we were competing with a couple of really massive companies to be the first to get there. So from our point of view, that was a good milestone, and the department is really chuffed to be having a tool actually that's meeting its needs. And speaking about meeting its needs, the reason that we decided to go with Octane to extend the suite, we actually, I should say, but starting we installed ALM, and ALM is being used by parts of the organization, and we've also installed Agile Manager, which is being used. But the reason that a couple of projects decided to go with Octane was that because it provided an end-to-end solution for their agile testing. So for them, that was a big part of what they were after in their needs. So all in all, the install process was really good, really simple, and delivered a great result. So I'll hand over to Nick now, because he's going to run through some of the things that he did after he did the install, or after I did the install, and I hand it over to him to run with the customizations. So I'll hand over to you, Nick.
Great, thanks, Andrew. So yeah, basically after we installed it at Health, they wanted a few customizations, and I guess the beauty about Octane was just how easy it was to do. So things like changing the workflow for your epics, the user stories, defects, and things like that were just seamless. They were just so easy to do. It was all visual. It was fantastic, especially coming from sort of that QC ALM sort of background, where I'm sure many of you know that it's not a visual thing. You sort of have to really think about what it is that you want to do and how you want to go through a workflow. Whereas this, it's you click, you add a new phase, and you can move things around. So it's that was really great for them. They really enjoyed that. And basically as well, I mean, a lot of the great things about Octane is just how visual it is. So in addition to the workflows, there was also the user-defined fields and the form customization. So being able to see what you're doing straight off the bat, rather than sort of having to think about where things go, you could just publish it, change, see how it goes. If it doesn't work, it's really easy to change. So another thing which they wanted was a few of the custom rules. So just a few really basic things, but again, they were so simple to create. So like, making fields mandatory when different phases are met, or, sending an email to to a particular person when a critical or a high defect was found. Things like that were just yeah, just great, just so much easy to do than any other tool I've actually used. So um, I'll move on to the next slide. So I think I've already touched on this. So many of the things which we absolutely love about Octane, like I've mentioned, are the visual representation of the workflows. Just great, really easy to use. Um, I guess when you're actually creating the tests, I really like the text editor. So, just being able to type rather than having to sort of like click a button to add a new step, which is what a lot of people do. So, just and also the ability to just copy and paste straight into the tool made things really easy, especially when we're sort of like dealing with a number of tests which they've been using Excel to sort of execute, and being able to just copy and paste that into that text editor, just brilliant. Then another thing was the Git backend. So just being able to see the version simply, at the click of a button, being able to compare different versions just made things so much easier. So we can see like, what our initial test was, and after going through multiple reviews, like where it ended up and things like that were really good. Um, the tags, I found that to be great. So just being able to add a custom tag to anything makes it really easy to go back and find things using the filtering functions that Octane has within it. Um, it's really easy to explain to people as well. So rather than some of the filters which I think we're used to, just click a button and it just basically brings up all the tests with that tag or that status, and or the defects in a particular status. Um, yeah, and I think I've already mentioned the visual editor for creating forms. Really easy to use, just a joy. Um, and Andrew already touched on this as well, but just having everything in one place, like we know that we can have connectors between things like ALM and Agile Manager and things like that, but just being able to have everything in one place, it's just a great selling point. It makes things really easy for people to understand where everything lies, and just great. And in terms of being able to report, having everything in that one tool, it just makes it simple. Um, yeah, and talking about the reporting, the animations and things that they've got in those reports and dashboards are just delightful. I found them to be just a bit of fun the way they bounce around when they're animating and things like that. So, and again, I've talked about the intuitive and simple ways of creating rules. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot to like about Octane, and it definitely has a bright future. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. Sort of, I know that we've just had a new release, which has introduced some great new things like the boards across all the different entities and things like that. Yeah, so it's definitely got a bright future. I'll move on to the next slide now. Um, so we've as well as rolling it out to health, we've also got another couple of clients who are looking at Octane. So I've recently got one project on board who we've been using Octane for on a trial basis, I guess you would say. Um, these guys are a startup, so they basically have no processes whatsoever. Uh, and so I've introduced Octane to them, and excuse me, I've introduced Octane to them as a testing tool and to try to improve their process, and they've been very receptive to it. I haven't had to explain anything to them about how to use Octane. They basically jumped in the tool and had a look around and were like, yep, we get this, we totally understand it. It's very intuitive. It's got a nice UI, and it's quite user friendly for them to use. So they've had some really positive feedback for me about Octane. So now I'll just hand it back over to Andrew to talk about the other client that we've got on board with them.
Thanks, Nick, for running us through those couple of points there. I think, yeah, following on from what you've said, is definitely the ease of use and the all-in-oneness of Octane that seems to be the thing that's getting people most excited. So, essentially, with our on-prem install, where to from there? We've got the initial version installed, but with the release of the latest version just early last week. We're preparing now to actually roll that version out in health, and with that, it's going to be a bunch of training that's going to be required, and I'm anticipating quite a quick upgrade process given the simplicity around the install. And then we're going to be rolling it out to even more and more people, which is awesome. So for them, they've got a bunch of projects that are just starting to ramp up now in preparation for a go live into the start of the project, sorry, in January. So this is perfect timing for a new release and some new features for us to get some even more excitement around the product and the tool. We've also got another customer who's starting their DevOps journey, and at the moment they're using Quality Center Enterprise Edition, and they're starting to get to that point where they want some more flexibility and a lot of the features that Octane offers. So for them, their adoption curve is one that's attached to a cultural shift in the organization, and I think that's probably one of the things that Nick and I have found probably most surprising actually about implementing Octane is that the technology is awesome. So it works and it's intuitive, as Nick said, and you don't actually need to do too much training. But it's the cultural shift in the organisation that we're finding that we're needing to spend more time on. So it's not a technology thing; it's how do we help organisations mature in their thought process around agile and DevOps and just working slightly differently. That's really the exciting bit, because you see people's eyes light up when we're taking them from a process where they used to have to use some other tools, which we won't name, but their process was that bad that they ended up writing the tests, then exporting them to Excel to do the execution, and then trying to report from collating 10 spreadsheets together. Where now we're taking them to a point where they're able to write tests in the tool, capture the defects, and do the reporting just with 2 simple clicks, and you're on the dashboard. So for us, that's really exciting. So I see that hopefully by the time the mid next year rolls around, we'll probably have 3 clients that'll be up and running on Octane, and I think that's in terms of an adoption curve, that's really awesome, because I think there's just it's gonna go big, and the guys in the R&D teams are doing some fabulous work in making the product even better. So. From our point of view, we see Octane as a key part of where all our clients are moving, and it's as long as it's kept up and as simple as it has been to use, then that's awesome, and I can see only good things coming. So, and I think at this point we've got some time now to take some questions if there were some questions.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A manager. But I could throw one out for you guys, which would be, if you're new to ALM Octane, and you may have mentioned this at the beginning, but it's always good to hit it again, where would you get started? What would you work with first in terms of getting used to ALM Octane and getting comfortable with it and helping it help you with that cultural change that you were talking about?
Great question, Kelly. I think we touched on it briefly, but I'm definitely happy to go across it again. So my personal experience is what I found is using the SaaS version. So at the moment, and I imagine it'll be the same for a while, is that there's a 30-day free trial on SaaS, and essentially the process to sign up for that is sub 10 minutes essentially, and you're up and running. And I found that was really good for me just to potter around in there using the SaaS, the hands-on aspects of using the actual tool, but then also using the Octane University and all of the material that's on there is definitely, I'm a sort of person who loves to do something, read about something, do it again, and learn that way. So I think that combination of SaaS plus the Octane Uni would definitely be my recommendation.
It does look like there's a couple other questions that have been coming in that are getting fed to us in the team chat. One of them is, what version of ALM were you using before you started working with ALM Octane?
For the Department of Health, where we rolled Octane out, they didn't have any ALM prior to that, but we also installed in parallel ALM 12.5 3, I think it was, patch, the latest patch. So we've got both of those running in parallel, which is awesome. Prior to that, back in my day, I've used, as I said, Test Director 7, QC 9, 10, 11, and all different variants there. So
There is another one. This is a good challenging question, which is when you first rolled Octane out to your customer in production, where were the areas that you felt needed improvement? So help guide us in our roadmap.
yeah, another excellent question there. I think the thing that we found wasn't actually it's more in the cultural space. So I don't think it was actually a technology area that we wanted to improve, but um, there was a whole bunch of assumptions that I guess the customer had made based on them reading between the lines in what we were saying in terms of functionality. So I think the technology was great; it was working well. But we needed, and it was more on our side, is we needed to better define what it was that was in and out of the current version. So the new version, so the thing that the customer is looking most forward to in the new version, which is about to arrive, is the Kanban boards for stories and epics, and because I think the current version is only tasks have the current on-prem version, I should say. So the SaaS version has that already in it. So that would be the boards where again with the cultural change, that was the thing they were looking for most, because they had a board upstairs which had a whole bunch of post-it notes and stuff like that, and they wanted to be able to replicate that in Octane. And we could for tasks, but we couldn't for stories in the initial version. So that's the thing they're most looking forward to.
This is one that's probably a little bit more open-ended, and on the cultural side, it says, if my shop has a mixture of waterfall projects and agile projects, what do you suggest?
Yeah, that's a great question. And essentially, I think we'd be probably struggling to find a shop that doesn't have a mix these days because everyone's got the bimodal or trimodal or sort of environments happening at the moment. So I think it depends. The question I would also ask there is do you have anything at the moment? Because if you're going from nothing to having something, then I would certainly suggest. I mean, Octane's great for agile, and you can also do it in waterfall. Or you could also run a waterfall project in there because fundamentally, what we're dealing with is requirements, and we're just calling them epics and stories, and tests and defects, which is that's common across a waterfall project as well as an agile project. So definitely, I would say that the if there's nothing there already, then I'll definitely go for Octane because you can do all of it in there, and I think in the longer run Octane's going to get, that being agile and DevOpsy and all that sort of stuff. I think that's where the future is, and I would say that would be if you could get on that bandwagon now and deploy that, then that would certainly be my recommendation. Not that ALM is not an awesome product too, but I think if you have that choice, then I'd go for the new, live on the edge, and because you get. And what we found is by being right on the edge of the technologies, we're getting fabulous support from the R&D guys and the whole HP team with any minor question that we have, we're getting turnaround and sub 24-hour turnaround for everything. So I definitely my recommendation is go Octane and you won't look back.
I was going to say thank you, Andrew and Nick. That was a great answer to kind of wrap up on. I know we're just out at the bottom of the hour. So I want to thank you both for presenting your great story of ALM Octane adoption. And we can hear your enthusiasm about just your experience with Octane. So that's great. And I want to thank everyone who was part of the live day all day today. I know there's some great information that was shared. With that, I just want to thank you all for joining, and you all have a great day. Thanks everyone.